So Super Rugby round 15 is all done. Power rankings are calculated. Most of the results seem to go the way the bookies predicted this week, but not all plain sailing. So we'll have a look at the rankings, and then yeah, we can see how everything's looking. Start with the ever-reliable Sunwolves to prop up the table. Their run of 2 games on the trot has come to a pretty abrupt end at the hand of the Rebels. To be fair, though, it was a bit of a Sunwolves B team with so many guys kind of getting ready for international duty. So yeah, I don't know how much you read into that, but either way, a loss is a loss, and yeah, it's not pretty. 2 wins, 10 losses is their season, but it's still looking better than it was a month ago. Next, down 1 spot. Even when they don't play, they seem to suffer. The Blues, yeah, they only got out of the 14th spot for a week, and now they're back into it. On the bye, like I said, so more dropping down because of another team jumping above. They got the Rebels next week, so we'll see if they're able to get a first one at home and maybe jump up the table a little bit. Next, down 1 spot, also the Reds. Their record's now 4-8-0, so they're not quite striking at the best rate. Still, you got to look at that side and say there's potential there. It's just they're not quite able to put everything together for an 80-minute performance. It was probably a good 40, but pretty poor second 40. So yeah, it's still a building year, so we can't be too harsh on them. But we would hope that before the end of the season, we would start to see kind of improvements in some of those areas. Next, one of the big winners, up 2 spots, the Brumbies. Largely thanks to Tom Banks and his amazing try. They managed to come back from behind despite a red card to beat the Bulls away from home, which I don't think anybody expected, especially once that red card happened. You thought that's going to be blown away the same as they were against the Lions, but it wasn't to be. So credit to them for that. And yeah, we'll see how they go against the Sunwolves back in Canberra this week. Hopefully a few more fans will get along to attend than did in their last game. 11th, no change for the Melbourne Rebels. Despite their victory over the Sunwolves, their record is now at 6 wins, 6 losses. So they're a bit unlucky to be where they are. But I'll have to go over that in just a tick, because next, and also staying the same, are the Stormers. And initially I saw this after I did all the calculations, and I thought, I have a problem with this, because the Rebels are 6 wins, 6 losses, and the Stormers are 5 wins, 9 losses. So how on earth are the Rebels still below the Stormers? I had to kind of do a bit of digging just to see where these kind of weightings were coming from. They've both only won 2 of their last 7 games, so neither side is on a great run. The weighting of the power rankings, as I mentioned last week, is kind of towards the more recent results than the old ones, and it was the Rebels that got off to a flying start, whereas the Stormers had a pretty rotten tour of Australia and New Zealand to start their season. If you look at the for and against of their last 7 games, the Stormers are at -12, so not too bad, whereas the Rebels are at -83. So it's really a poor set of performances over those last 7 games, which see the Rebels where they are. They are not much behind the Stormers, to be fair, in the way I calculate things, but that's just to give you a bit of context. It's not because the Stormers are great. To be fair, neither side is doing that well. And also I should say that although the Rebels have won 6 games, they've beaten the Sunwolves twice, the Brumbies twice, the Reds once, and the Sharks once. So Sunwolves in 15th, Reds in 13th, Brumbies. These are all sides pretty much at the bottom. So how much weighting you give to them for those wins is kind of limited. The only side they beat that's kind of in the middle of the table is the Sharks. So they've not really, I don't know, against the top teams, they've really struggled. So that's kind of where they're at. Open to your guys' thoughts on that though, for sure. Next, the Bulls, staying the same. Another disappointing week for them. Yeah, they should have beaten the Brumbies, especially after that first half performance, but their record is now 5-8-0. really on the wrong side of the ledger. They need to rectify things quick, otherwise the playoffs are, they're quickly becoming unobtainable. So we'll see how they go. They've got a bit of time to rest and recuperate to kind of get organised and see how they go. Although they'll be without their Springboks come June, so we'll see what John Mitchell's able to do with the guys who stay in camp. Next, and also the same, are the Sharks. So the Sharks' record is 5 wins, 7 losses, and a draw. Still unable to really click. It's a frustrating Sharks team to watch. They've got the players, they just aren't getting the performances at the minute. So yeah, they're I don't know, they're still in it, but they also, like the Bulls, need to get their act into gear pretty quickly. Next, down one spot are the Waratahs. So the Waratahs, another narrow loss to a Kiwi team, although it was kind of blown out by one last try at the end. They probably deserved a bit better than they got. But I think at least they've shown against the 4 Kiwi teams they've played, it's been 2 really narrow losses, 1 win, and the loss just now, which against the Chiefs. Yeah, it doesn't look flattering, but it wasn't a bad performance. So I think that's encouraging. If they are the Aussie team to top the Aussie conference, I don't think they're going to be a walkover. But yeah, we'll see how they go between here and the end of the season. Next, up one are the Lions. They ground out a victory over the Stormers this week. Stormers have not been an easy team to beat at Newlands, so I guess credit to them for that. I feel like a broken record saying, though, that they just still aren't clicking like we know they can. If they do get it right, they're going to be a threat to anybody. But at the moment, if you were betting on them against the Hurricanes or the Highland or the Crusaders, I know which way my money would be going. So yeah, we'll see how things go also for them between the end of the season. Next, also the same. The Highlanders squeaked the win over the Reds away from home. Apparently their record at Ballymore had not been Suncorp had not been great, so I guess at least they rectified that. But they're not going to be entirely thrilled with their performance. I mean, looking at where the Reds are on my power rankings and on the table, they're not like a powerhouse team. And if the Highlanders are going to be challenging in the comp, you'd think that they would be able to perform at a slightly higher level. So they were without their All Blacks, so I guess that's kind of reason for it. But they still need to up their game, that's for sure. Next, Jaguares don't quite make it into my top row despite a good victory this week. Their run goes on, and if it keeps going, they're going to get there. But yeah, unfortunately for them, two of the 3 teams above them won. Top 2 teams, to be fair, are still a cut above, but the team in third especially had a win, so just pips them out for that 3rd spot. But Jaguares, man, they are very encouraging. Their early season woes have kind of been forgotten, and they are really impressing this middle, kind of late middle point in the season. Third, the Chiefs stay the same. So they got that victory over the Waratahs. It made it look a bit better that they got that last try to Damien McKenzie, put the scoreline out comfortably, gave them a bonus point. So credit to them for going through, past the 80th minute to keep fighting for that result. And yeah, I mean, they controlled the game pretty well. So I think they will give the Crusaders a challenge next week for sure. Next, down one spot. After 8 weeks at number 1, I'm dropping the Hurricanes down to number 2 after a loss away to the Crusaders. Their record is now 10 wins and 2 losses. It's the first time they've lost since week number 2. Yeah, wet weather rugby doesn't seem to be their thing. Key areas that they needed to click against the Crusaders didn't quite go. The Crusaders got it right, and the Crusaders got the win. It's pretty much as simple as that. So yep, the Crusaders are at number 1, 11 wins, 2 losses, Haven't been beaten in a long time, I think since week 5. Haven't been beaten at home in a very, very long time. I can't remember the last time they were beaten at home. They are looking like a force. Despite injuries, they seem to have crazy depth. What can I say? It's going to be hard for anyone to beat them. Fingers crossed the Chiefs give them a challenge next week. It's a pretty hard run for them to have, Hurricanes and Chiefs kind of in successive weeks. But yeah, I guess that's the nature of the New Zealand Conference at the minute. Alright guys, let me know your guys' thoughts on the power rankings. I've tried to kind of go through things as well as I could. Like I said, the Stormers one did perplex me a bit, but looking into it, it does kind of make sense from my end. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.